So when Nighthaven terminated their contract with Rainbow and went their separate ways, not only did a few Rainbow operatives leave alongside Nighthaven, the internal structure of Rainbow would change as well. The outcome of the program and the Tournament of Champions, which to many operators such as Thorn seemed like some dumb game when they should be preparing for real missions, well, this was actually to determine who would lead Rainbow going forward, as Rainbow would begin to get broken into 4 separate squads, with Kavera, Hibana, Doc, and Thermite being the leaders of each. By all means, they would become the new leaders of Rainbow, especially after the death of Harry. But a question which has always been asked in my videos is, if Nighthaven didn't depart from Rainbow and these operators never left, what squads would they be a part of inside of Rainbow? So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at every single Nighthaven operator and placing them in a Rainbow squad, and I'll give my reasons for each of them and explain why. And if you disagree with any of them, drop a comment and let me know why as well, because I think this is a fun video. Hit a like if you like R6 lore, and let's get into this. Right, let's start off with Nighthaven's leader, and that is Callie. If she was to still be a part of Rainbow, I don't think she would accept being led by anyone else, but if she was to fit into any squad, I'd probably say that Callie would be a part of Redhammer. Redhammer is the more frontline brutal force squad, and although an operator with a sniper wouldn't necessarily be referred to as a frontline operator, I feel it's more Callie's aggression and fortitude which really cements her place as a Redhammer operator, especially since we've seen that she will happily put others in harm's way if it means that they are going to reach the desired goal. Not saying that she necessarily wants to harm others, but if that's what has to happen, that's what she'll do. Even if the odds are against her, she will not be stopped by anyone. And as well as this, having Callie on Redhammer would be really interesting since Ash is also on Redhammer, so having those two operators on the same team together would lead to some really interesting moments, especially since we've already seen how bad those two are at working as a team together. I think Callie definitely fits Redhammer. Right, let's move over to Nighthaven's director of R&D, and that is Osa. Now to me, Osa would perfectly fit in with the Viperstrike squad. This is the backbone, support, and versatility squad led by Captain Hibana. Now I think Osa would fit perfectly in this squad, especially with operators such as Mira being on this squad. Osa and Mira can share a lot with each other, and especially with them being the support squad, having both the brains of Mira and Osa on the field would lead to a lot of very interesting scenarios. The usage of Osa's shield would also be very useful inside of Viperstrike in setting up locations and holding down areas. Quite a good example of seeing how Viperstrike operators come into play is looking at the cinematic of when Deimos is attacking Emerald Plains. Two Viperstrike operators in this cinematic are Rook and Mira, and as you can see, when they enter the building, they instantly start setting it up and fortituding it, whilst Doc, who is the leader of Wolfguard, the humanitarian squad, is more concerned about the safety of the Secretary General. So I definitely think Osa would fit in alongside all the other operators in Viperstrike, and that is the perfect squad for her. Moving over to Callie's second in command, that is going to be Wamai, and me personally, I think Wamai would fit perfectly with Ghosteyes. Now this is the more stealthy squad led by Captain Kavera, and I think using Wamai's magnets, he can actually play a very good stealth role. I think this is highlighted very well in the animation we saw when Callie and Wamai released, as Wamai pretty much dismantles these pirates using his magnets and without being detected, especially since he has the ability to breathe underwater for prolonged periods of time. This would make him very useful in a lot of different scenarios, and I can imagine him being very stealthy alongside Kavera and Sam Fisher and Nook. I think Wamai would be absolutely in his element, and it would be really cool to see him in a scenario like this. Next up we have Ace. This one is pretty obvious. He would easily be a part of Wolfguard, the humanitarian squad. After quitting medical school, he done paramedic training and would join the Norwegian Home Guard. He would there get a reputation for his heroics. I mean, the entire reason he is even in Nighthaven is because of a UN operation in Somalia. He ended up saving Callie's life, and she offered him a space in Nighthaven. Even the very first line we ever heard from Ace in his teaser trailer was, "There is no chasm too wide, no wall too thick that will stop me from bringing you home." Ace would fit absolutely perfectly in the Wolfguard squad. He is a true humanitarian at heart, and he has devoted his life to saving people. Next up, we're going to move on to Rooney, who I also think would be a part of the Wolfguard squad as well. Now, I really wish I could put her in Redhammer due to her close relationship with Captain Thermite, but I truly couldn't bring myself to do that because I do think she truly does fit in Wolfguard. So, of course, after there is conflict around the world, a lot of ordnance is simply just left, especially landmines. And when Rooney was a kid, her sister would actually die after picking one up and playing with it, simply thinking it was just a toy. She would then dedicate a lot of her life to looking for unexploded ordnance, and disposing of them in a safe manner. That is how she would eventually get into her accident, as her and Thermite, before either of them were even in Rainbow or Nighthaven, tried to remove an active bomb from the center of Bangkok. Even the quote from her bio says, "In every conflict, it's the children who are made to suffer, even after the fighting has stopped." So the lives of others has always been something very deep and personal to Aruni, and placing her on the humanitarian squad only feels like it makes the most sense. Especially since being a humanitarian and clearing these unexploded mines is such a massive part of her life. Now Ella is quite a hard one to pin down, which is very fitting because that's an entire part of her backstory about how she is very rebellious and doesn't really fit in anywhere, hence why she left Rainbow to join Nighthaven. But if we were to place her on Rainbow, she would most likely be Redhammer. She has the aggression, she has that rebellious independence, which really complements a brute force squad like Redhammer, and she would happily be the first one in that door. With Zofia being a part of Ghosteyes as well, I feel like it might be best to keep those two operators apart, and just watching that cinematic makes me really think of Redhammer when I see how she acts, and I can't imagine her personality fitting any other squad. Moving over to Smoke, again, this was quite a hard one to place a location on, but I kinda think he would work best in Viperstrike. Being able to hold down locations and provide support with the Smoke is very useful, and as well as this, he is a very intelligent man, so again, I think using his brains alongside operators such as Mira and Osa would complement that team very well. I can't imagine him being a mainly humanitarian operator, I can't imagine him being mainly a stealth operator, and I also can't really imagine him being a brute force. I think Viperstrike fits Smoke very well, and of course, if you disagree, drop a comment letting me know why and where you would personally put Smoke. Next up, we have the Belarusian Finka. I think this one is very obvious. She would easily be a part of the Wolfguard squad. She is a healer, she focuses on CBRN threat research and everything like that. Lion also does that stuff, and he is also on Wolfguard, as well as the other healers, which is Doc and Thunderbird. They are both Wolfguard operators. I think it would be a disservice not to place Finka on the Wolfguard squad. I think she fits that squad very well, especially with that all being quite close to her, because her condition, which requires these nanobot stims, which she has, and that's how she heals her operators in game, is because she has a genetic deficiency because of what happened in Chernobyl. So I think her being a humanitarian operator fits her very well. For IQ, I would also place her on Viperstrike. Not only does she have quite a big hand to play in the R&D department, which would work very well alongside Mira and Osa, I think the intel and support that she provides with her scanner is very beneficial to the team, and especially since an operator such as Solace, whose gadget is actually an upgraded version of IQ's gadget, which was originally meant to go to IQ, but then she left Rainbow, so it went to Solace. Solace is already on Ghosteyes, so I think focusing on IQ's brain and her smarts rather than her gadget, and not to downplay Solace's brain as well, because she is also very intelligent, but I think Solace just trumps IQ's gadget, so it's much more fitting for IQ to then play a role in Viperstrike rather than playing a role in Ghosteyes. And speaking of Ghosteyes, that is where we are going to put Pulse. I think he would fit very well in the stealthy Ghosteyes squad, not only because his gadget would give a lot of really good information and intel without being detected, which plays perfectly into the stealth role. He also has a Bachelor's of Science in Forensics and a Master's of Science in Biometrics. I feel like a lot of this would really assist the work which Ghosteyes does. And of course, all of these teams still work together in unison. It's not like operators, once they're placed on a squad, can't work with other operators. But I feel like his gadget and his intelligence specialty fits perfectly on Ghosteyes. And the final operator we have is Grim. Now this one was a tricky one. I'm really stuck between Redhammer and Ghosteyes. I feel like I may lean into him being more in Ghosteyes, but I also would not be against putting him in Redhammer as well. Now the reason why I put him in Ghosteyes is the comic book showed how really good Grim was at remaining in the shadows, gaining intel, knowing when and when not to use force, being able to threaten people without being caught, which would eventually lead him to finding where Nook lives, which is something that no one knows. So his aggression and his strength is what made me want to put him in Redhammer, but his stealth, his skill, his tracking capabilities is what makes him a really good Ghosteyes operator in my opinion. Especially with Nook also being on that squad, it would be quite interesting, although that conflict then probably wouldn't have happened if the two sides remained the same, but it'd be quite cool to see Grim and Nook working on the same side in unison. And so everybody, that is where I would place each of the Nighthaven operators into the different Rainbow squads if they never to departed from Rainbow. Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below if you agree and disagree with the placements I have done. I think it'd be very interesting to see what different perspectives and opinions people may have on this. If you did enjoy this video, then be sure to drop it a like. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, since we're trying to hit 200k. And if you like R6 lore, I got more content coming for you. Have an incredible rest of your day. I love you all. Stay safe. Peace.